Good morning. It's Monday, May the 15th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the Star-Spangled Banner, we will have promises, under-promise and over-deliver, debt ceiling, wealth tax, no free lunch, the rape of the mind, and political priorities. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and remove your hats for the national anthem of the United States of America.
Thank you. And now, there's no free lunch. 250 Economic Truths by David-Bahnsen.
Says law, which was kind of the bedrock proposition of classical economics, is that production creates its own demand. In other words, that the economy is a cyclical kind of process. If you produce something, you pay money. The widget makers pay their employees to make the widgets, and the employees use their compensation to buy widgets. If you extend this over an economy and over a great number and great variety of goods, you have a picture of an economy. Robert L. Bartley. Before there was a supply-side movement, there was John Baptiste Say and Says Law. A production or supply-focused view of the economy emphasizes production, contrary to the Keynesian view that emphasizes demand. Say's law was economic, insomuch as it focused on the economic cyclicality of paying people to produce, which drove their own consumption. He was not wrong. My view of a production-focused view of the economy adds the existential element. The man was created to produce, and consumption comes only out of our production. We can only consume after we have first produced, and we can only consume what someone else first produced. This not only creates a virtuous cycle economically, as Bartley refers to above, but you honor mankind's dignity and drive usefulness, productivity, and purpose.
And that was There's No Free Lunch by David-Bahnsen. Back in a minute. Thank you. Who is the true conservative? He is the person that understands that conservatism is not just about politics, but culture as well. He is not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He is patriotic and uses common sense. He expresses what he knows and does so with absolute certainty. He makes judgments, refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He's open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He is consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He's a normal American, and he is better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that. If you don't know with every fiber of your being that being a true conservative is best, then you're wasting your time. Back in a minute. Thank you. What are the true conservative suggested political priorities? Number 1, the abolition of abortion throughout the land. Number 2, make nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons obsolete. Number 3, immediate decertification of all public employee unions. 4, the immediate assignment of criminal and civil liabilities to all government regulators. Number 5, the immediate repeal of the so-called Patriot Act. Number 6, the immediate repeal of all emergency dictator laws. Number 7, the reinstatement of writs of outlawry. 8, government-sponsored recalls, ballot initiatives, and referendums. 9, a flexible minimum wage. 10, means-tested health care. 11, the immediate and permanent prohibition of investment banking by any office holder. Back in a minute. Thank you. And so another thing that's in the news this week they're anticipating is that there's supposed to be tomorrow some meetings between the executive branch and the Congress about the debt ceiling. And it's a big so what, because the real issue here is why do we keep going through this crap? Because 6 months from now, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to have the same brinksmanship, the same people talking the same thing. We have to do this, we have to do that. It can be stopped, and that's the point. And the way we stop doing this is by something called zero-based budgeting. Republicans have been in favor of zero-based budgeting for decades. The Democrats have fiercely resisted it, and it is long past time for the Congress, the Republican-led Congress, to start ramming that through and start with a zero-based budgeting, by the way, is where every agency in the federal government starts from zero. Okay, the way it works right now is every agency starts with the amount of money they got last year. And then if they want an increase, they have to justify that increase. Or they may be, in some cases, they even are given, they'll start with a certain level, the level they had last year, then Congress will say, well, we'll automatically go ahead and give you an extra 10%, but anything beyond that, you'll have to justify, that kind of thing. And that's why the government gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If we want to be able to shrink the size of government, it is absolutely vital that we get to zero-based budgeting. And so that's one of the things that the Republicans need to do. It's urgent. You've got abortion, getting defunding Planned Parenthood. You've got the budget, which is zero-based budgeting that needs to get through, and replace Obamacare. The Planned Parenthood and the Obamacare are promises that the Republicans made years ago, and that they never, ever finished. They broke their promises on that. So this is their opportunity to come back to those promises and fulfill them once and for all. Back in a minute. Thank you. So one of the things I noticed, I was listening to a little bit of President Biden's speech at the university. I guess it was a commencement speech. And he was talking about white supremacy. And what it struck me was that this is what all dictators do. All dictators need a boogeyman to explain away failures. When things don't go the way they're supposed to go, they got somebody they can blame it on. And his go-to is white supremacy. And that he is acting as if he is a dictator. And it has to do with, again, promises and failing to make promises, and our failure to hold him accountable, to make him make promises. Okay, so if you listen to when he announced his announcement that he was running for president, that nowhere in there did he make one single promise. He says, we have to finish the job. And again, no details, no promises, and this is what dictators do. Dictators act as if they're entitled to the position. Candidates recognize that the office doesn't belong to them. And so they, number one, make promises. Number two, they ask for your vote. And you'll notice that Joe Biden never does that. He never asks for anybody's vote. He doesn't say, please vote for me. Okay, and this is a trend amongst all politicians. Okay, except one, and that's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the one that makes promises. And I believe that that's the reason he's such a big threat to the so-called swamp, the establishment. Because the establishment likes it the way it is, where they just pretend that they're entitled, people just go ahead and vote for them, and they stay in office forever. Look at Senator Feinstein being wheeled around Washington, because as far as she's concerned, she's entitled to the position, when as a matter of fact, she's not. But again, people that recognize they're not entitled to the position, this is something that is given to them by the people, ask for your vote, and they make promises. Vote for me and I will do X. People that think that they're going to be dictators and that they're going to be in the office for life, for the rest of their life, don't bother to make promises, and they don't bother to ask for your vote. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the rape of the mind.
Even when people are well prepared and trained to meet an anticipated disaster, such as imprisonment and brainwashing, the actual impact of the danger may provoke all kinds of defensive behavior. Overtraining may even weaken the person because the long anticipation allows all kinds of hidden fantasies to run rampant. In a minority of persons, this may be expressed in such pathological fear reactions as complete nervous breakdown or utter paralysis. Every person shows a different mental threshold of resistance to danger, and this threshold may change day by day, depending on our physical and mental fortitude. As a rule, inexperienced troops do not immediately show pathological fear in combat. Such behavior takes some time to develop. Paradoxically enough, fear reactions and moments of weakness often develop after the real danger has passed. When the tension of battle or the daily stress of life in the prison camp is over, and there's no longer any need to hide one's fears and to control one's behavior, many people let go completely and give free vent to all their anxieties. In Dover, England in 1944, the population suffered a kind of collective nervous breakdown when, after the tension of 4 years of continual shelling by the Germans, they heard only silence. The shelling suddenly stopped completely after the Allied troops swept victoriously across the Belgian coast. At that moment, many of the people of Dover broke down. It was as if the unexpected silence had brought them into a state of shock. This paradoxical fear reaction after danger is past is important for us to understand. The totalitarian strategists know that during a period of temporary quiet and relaxation of tension, people lose their alertness and thus can be more easily caught in the totalitarian mental grip. In their strategy of terror, they consciously make use of the psychological action of the breathing spell. As soon as we let go and drop the defenses we have built up against danger, we can be brought to swallow any strong suggestions. The totalitarians also in their document on terror called the technique of taking advantage of such relief the strategy of fractionalized fear. In a quiet period between acute tensions, they can easily condition their victims' minds. Hitler used the Munich period of appeasement in precisely this way. During this time, his propaganda barrage was doubly effective. Whether the reaction to fear and danger is immediate or delayed, most people show, under stress, behavior that can be said to fall into one of the following patterns. 1. Regression, loss of learned behavior. 2. Camouflage and disguise, the so-called feign or faint reactions. 3. The explosive panic, defense through fight or flight. 4. Our psychosomatic conditioning, the body takes over.
And that was Paradoxical Fear from The Rape of the Mind. Back in a minute. Thank you. So one of the things I decided to look up and is under promise and over deliver. And I looked it up on Google. And so, and I found it under something called the Farlex Dictionary of Idioms. And under promise and over deliver is defined as to avoid raising expectations in order to subsequently exceed them, used as a strategy to ensure the satisfactions of one's client, customer, boss, etc. And then they have a couple of quotes on there. I want all our customer service representatives to under-promise and over-deliver so that all experiences with our company are positive ones. The boss urges us to under-promise and over-deliver, but I think our clients are perfectly happy when we do just what we promised. And that's the counter to it. And that's the truth. If somebody, a business comes to me and says, we'll get it to you on Wednesday, and they get it to me on Monday, 2 days early, that's not a good thing because it tells me they don't know what they're doing. When you say you're going to get it to me Wednesday and you get it to me Wednesday, then I'm satisfied. Okay, so it's about keeping promises, and under-promising and over-delivering is basically committing fraud. You're committing fraud with the customer, and if you're using this technique as a politician, you're committing fraud on the population at large. But the key words there that I was reading is keeping expectations low, right? That politicians love that idea. Why should I go out and make promises? Because as soon as I do, I'm going to raise expectations. Now, if you're going to under-promise and keep expectations low, if you make no promises at all, aren't you going to have a population with no expectations? And if we don't have any expectations, isn't that the reason why nobody ever gets upset? When we have high inflation, we have this problem, that problem, the other problem, nobody ever really gets upset. They just sort of shrug their shoulders and move on because the politician didn't promise anything. And again, the antidote to this is force them. Okay? And this is going to be, a lot of this is going to be on the talk show hosts, the Sean Hannitys of the world. They're going to have to, when they sit down and talk with a politician, and Sean Hannity loves to kiss the ass of Republican politicians. They come on his show, ooh, can I kiss your butt? Please drop your drawers so I can kiss your ass. And instead, what he should be doing is saying, demanding that they make promises. If they fail to do that, then he can assign promises based on implied promises that are made when they take the oath of office. Because when they take the oath of office, there's no doubt they're making a promise. Because it says, I swear to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, etc., etc. So what is implied in that? So, and we can infer what the promises are, and then we can hold them accountable that way. We can say, with the President of the United States, the executive branch is in charge of border security, period. There's no way to duck that. It's not the job of the Congress, although I think he's tried to fob it off on Congress. It isn't. It's not the job of Congress. It's the job of the executive branch. And if there's people coming across the border illegally, that's a failure of this administration. They broke their promise. And so that's the way we're going to get things back on track. When we get politicians to quit acting as though they're entitled to the position, and they start acting as though the position is given to them by the people, and they start making promises and asking for votes, then we're back on track. And not until. Back in a minute. So this is Stuart-Varney on his My Take. Let me get this queued up right here. But there is one big point here that I need to make after this.
The boomers, 60 to 80 years old. They've accumulated $78 trillion, mostly in real estate and stocks. Don't kid yourself. You didn't make that money by hard work, drive, brains, and good judgment. Oh, no. As the Times says, you made it in part because of, quote, years of housing discrimination and a lack of access to financial tools and advice for people of color, end quote. Since the vast majority of baby boomers with money are white, their white children and white grandchildren will inherit the money, thus continuing racial inequality. This is a setup for a wealth tax. The socialist wing of the Democrat Party demands that you add up the value of all your stocks, bonds, houses, businesses, even your artwork. Then you have to fork over a portion of that wealth every year to the government. It doesn't matter whether your investments are up or down. Just having money is the excuse to take it off you.
So the thing is, two things here. First of all, Republicans, and then the second thing is the Democrats. So first of all Democrat schemes follow the same pattern. Democrats come up with the ideas. Republicans are expected to either make that idea come true or pay for it. And let's just say that they are expected to reify the Democrats' zero. So the Democrats have this idea of equity across the land, and it is Republicans that are expected to create that equity. And in this particular case, when it says, baby boomers are rich, read Republican baby boomers. Okay, my response to this, if somebody comes to me at work or at school or whatever and says, hey, Ron, what about this, what about a wealth tax? My answer is, let's start with the whitest newspaper in the United States of America, the New York Times. They want to go ahead and start this as a show of good faith by giving a percentage of their wealth to the federal government or whatever, fine. But let them start it, and Democrats have to be included. The richest people in this country are Democrats. They're all Democrats. When I see them, I don't mind if you want to have some kind of a scheme and you're going to have the guts to pay for that scheme. Okay, I got some respect for that. Even if I don't like it, even if I think that this is wrong and stupid, fine. If you're going to pitch in and pay for this, you're going to so-called put on the gloves and the hard hat and start building, fine. I've got respect for that, like I had respect for Jimmy Carter when he was always whining about the poor. But then when he left office, he put his action where his mouth was, and he actually went to Habitat for Humanity and spent decades building houses for poor people. I can respect that. Even though I didn't like Jimmy Carter, I didn't like his personality, I didn't like his policies, but I do respect the fact he shows he has some character, and I got to respect that. Same thing here. That's the key here. Make the Democrats pay for it. Make sure Senator Warren is one of the richest people in Congress, and Nancy Pelosi and all the people at Twitter and Schmitter and Geditter. All of those fools are filthy rich billionaires. When I see them bellying up to the bar to pay their fair share, then I will take this program seriously and take this idea seriously. Until then, forget it. That means if they try to force it on me, I will subvert it with every piece of energy I've got. Because they're going to have to the only way they're going to know what my wealth is they're going to have to ask me. And if they're not going to pitch in and they think that I'm going to pay for their programs, they're out of their mind. So that's something that you need to consider. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. So I'm reminding you that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.